závodníci startující na pravé straně, tak budou mít mnohem lepší. To vás tady nemá, je to se podnětí sledování tohoto dění.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome at the Automotodrom Brno in the Czech Republic, in Czechia. We are starting today's program a little bit sooner than originally planned because we would like to show you something extra for Sunday's program. We are starting with the first race of the Saturday program, and that is the Suzuki Swift Europe Challenge. And cars already lined up on the grid. Well, if you watched the Saturday's program with us as well, you will spot one major difference between these 2 days, and that is the weather. Because yesterday all was nice and sunny, but today spots of rain trouble the track here and there, and the track is now sort of mixed between wet and dry, but we are now sitting with our commentary station outside under a tent, and I can tell you that drops of rain keep falling on the track, so it should be very much good fun. And also what you probably can spot now from these pictures is that if you are standing on the left-hand side of the starting grid, from the view of the drivers, you'll see that the cars are pretty much in the dry lane, whereas everybody that's on the inside line has to start on the wet, which is an extra challenge for those drivers in the even numbered positions. We've got 2 different categories in this Swift Cup Europe Challenge. The newer generation of Swift models that are using the 1.4 litre turbo engine, and then towards the back of the pack there are the older generation Swifts with naturally aspirated 1.6 litre power units. And even though both categories, let's say, start together, the organizers have decided to put one row completely free with no cars in it, so that both sort of generations are distinguished and divided, because they both have a different level of performance. Cars already set off for the formation lap, and of course this is the chance for them to see which parts currently at this very moment are dry or maybe dry-ish, which are more wet. So which line probably to take in those crucial opening laps of the race. And it is Daniel Lemmerhofer taking pole position for race number 2 of the weekend. In second, he's got to have Günther Edenstöckel joining him on the front row. In third, it is Martin Zellhofer. In fourth, Christoph Zellhofer. So it is all family Zellhofer, row number 2. P5, that is Fabian Orfandl. P6, that's Max Wimmer. In 7th, we've got Gábor Tim. In 8th, Dominik Haselsteiner. In 9th, Fabio Bečvář. In 10th, Kamil Serafin. In 11th, Maciej Banáš, and that's all from the newer generation of Swifts. And then in 12th, it is the first of the older cars driven by Johannes Madertaner. In 13th, Attila Bucci. In 14th, Balázs Hartmann. In 15th, Gergő Rácz. In 16th, Alex Sovka. And in 17th, Gábor Al-Abši. Dominik Haselsteiner who is going to start from B8, is the driver that won race number 1. So, we can also tell you that Daniel Lemmerhofer, who's on the pole position, he was the one who was 8th, which tells you that the starting order for race number 2 is decided by results of race number 1, but to give it a bit more of a spin and trick, the top 8 positions are completely reversed. So the 2 best drivers of yesterday's race, Dominik Haselsteiner and Gábor Tim, are found today in row number 4, whereas the drivers who finished B7 and B8, Günther Edenstöckel and Daniel Lemmerhofer, will be on the front row of the starting grid, and we see Daniel Lemmerhofer taking pole position. Günther Edenstöckel trying to put some extra heat into his tires in the very last minutes and seconds, the very last meters there. Naturally, for the drivers on the front row, it is a tiny little bit more difficult now because they have to wait the longest before the rest of the pack finds their positions on the starting grid. So, rain has stopped, but still a few drops here and there fall on the track. So it is mixed conditions for race number 2 here. And we are racing here in Brno. Daniel Lemmerhofer starting from pole position, and he's going to fight for that P1 into the first corner. But it's not just them two, but also other opponents trying to fight for the top spot into the first corner. Daniel Lemmerhofer, it seems that he's withheld his front position, and he's leading the pack through turn 1 here in Brno. Now it is the long sprint towards turn number 3, so it's slightly uphill there, and it is Daniel Lemmerhofer. This is Christoph Zellhofer, and it should be Martin Zellhofer in second currently. Günther Edenstöckel did not really have the best of starts, and he's fallen down to, I believe, even 6th place there. So Daniel Lemmerhofer leading the way from Martin Zellhofer. The stadium section, and Martin Zellhofer taking the lead because Daniel Lemmerhofer made a small mistake. He was a bit too wide on the entry of the stadium section, and he is now dropped to 3rd. So not the best way to finish the opening lap, and he's already down into P4. Not the best of actions on his side there. He's now trailing the yellow Suzuki. This is the car number 110, and that is Christoph Zellhofer fighting with Max Wimmer for currently P6. Max Wimmer moving up a place, and now he's directly behind our pole sitter, Daniel Lemmerhofer. So Daniel Lemmerhofer, he had a good start actually, and the first half of the opening lap, but then the stadium section was pretty much appalling. And it is Martin Zellhofer, ooh, and it's 3 wide into the last corner. Beautiful stuff there. And it is car number 146, Fabian Orfandl, in second place, and he keeps trying to trouble Martin Zellhofer. So Martin Zellhofer leading the way from Fabian Orfandl. Gábor Tim, beautiful start from his side. Gábor Tim was second yesterday. That means he started in 7th today, but he's already up he's already 4 places up. Only behind him in fourth, we have the pole sitter, Daniel Lemmerhofer. Fight for first position, raging on. Martin Zellhofer having to defend very heavily. It is really tricky for all the drivers because the conditions are really mixed, and along the straights it looks like the racing line is pretty much dry, but while fighting for positions, drivers go 2-3 abreast, and that simply means that some of them have to go into the wet. We've already, a bit of a drift there from Gábor Tim, but he managed to keep it nice and tidy in the end. We've already said yesterday that generally drivers complain about the surface here in Brno because it is very, very rough and does not offer much grip. So in certain sense, in its own way, it shouldn't be such a big difference between wet and dry. Drivers are simply lacking grip, so it should be good fun for us. And Gábor Tim trying to have a look down the inside of Martin Zellhofer, who lost the lead to Fabian Orfandl, and it is Fabian Orfandl leading the race. Opportunistic move from Max Wimmerer. He's moved up into fourth, in front of Daniel Lemmerhofer. So Daniel Lemmerhofer, our pole sitter, already down to fifth, and only behind him it is Christoph Zellhofer. Dominik Haselsteiner in seventh, from 8th placed Kamil Serafin. Balázs Hartmann in P11, currently the leading driver of the slower Swift 16 category. Fabian Orfandl finishing lap number 2. This race is listed for 30 minutes plus 1 lap. So plenty of action awaiting us here in Brno in the Suzuki Swift Europe Challenge. So Fabian Orfandl leading this race in lap number 3 from Martin Zellhofer and Gábor Tim. And beautiful, beautiful stuff going on between the racing drivers. They are trying to have a look at each other pretty much in every single corner. Whoa, sideways action from Gábor Tim, and in a bit of a drift he did overtake Martin Zellhofer. Amazing stuff there, but both of them now had a slower exit, and that invites Max Wimmer into an overtaking opportunity. In the end he was not aggressive enough, so he's staying fourth, but in close contact with Martin Zellhofer. This is the stadium section, tight and twisty there. Max Wimmer already trying to have a look at the podium places. Fabian Orfandl currently holding the fastest lap of the race, 2:31.386, and leading the way from Martin Zellhofer and Gábor Tim. Actually, it's reversed in P2 and P3 already. The live timing only refreshes itself with every drive across the start and finish line, but we know that in turn 4, Gábor Tim made a beautiful move, sort of sideways move on Martin Zellhofer, and stole the second place from him. And now he is hot on the heels of the race leader Fabian Orfandl. So this should get really interesting pretty soon again. Gábor Tim circulating around the last corner of the 5.4 kilometer track here just outside Brno. Fabian Orfandl still leading the way, but he's got to start watching his rearview mirrors because Gábor Tim is very close indeed. It's very probably not going to be close enough for attack into the first corner. Also Gábor Tim, even though he was overtaking on the last lap, on that previous lap, He did set the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 30.8, whereas Fabian Orfandl managed 2:31.5, so nearly a full second faster by Gábor Tim, and he is now very much hungry for the victory. Martin Zellhofer already losing a little bit of momentum on the leading pair, and he's got to keep an eye on the competition that is directly behind him. It is led by Max Wimmer and Daniel Lemmerhofer. There's also Christoph Zellhofer. Gábor Tim, it absolutely looks like he loves these slippery conditions, because his Suzuki Swift is visibly tail happy, and he's drifting through every single corner, but it looks like that's the way to go now, because that's also the way to keep heat in your tires. And Gábor Tim enjoying, although sliding through every single corner, visibly much more than the rest of the pack. It seems that that is the faster way to go now, and his car simply grips much better than for all the other drivers. Gábor Tim finding the recipe to be fast in these mixed conditions. It's still sort of wet and dry here and there. It is no longer raining, though the air is pretty humid here in Brno right now. And Suzuki Swifts are not fast enough to help really dry out the racing line very quickly. So presumably the conditions are going to stay like this until the end of this race. It's also cloudy and not very hot, which means it's not going to dry out on its own either. And Gábor Tim already glued to the rear bumper of Fabian Orfandl. Both of them flying past the paddock building and braking into the first corner. Max Wimmer troubling Martin Zellhofer into the first corner, but not being quite close enough. Fabian Orfandl leading the way, and now, ooh, there's a fight for P3. There was a contact. Martin Zellhofer getting tagged from behind by Max Wimmer. I was gonna say that because this fight for first position has not led to anything so far, it means that the whole leading group is now back together, but that's not true anymore, because there was a slight contact between Max Wimmer and Martin Zellhofer. In the end, Martin Zellhofer managed to stay in the correct direction and also kept his third place, but the gap between him and second placed Gábor Tim has now opened up. Fabian Orfandl still leading from Gábor Tim, and Max Wimmer having another look down the inside of Martin Zellhofer. Beautiful stuff there, and this is much better exit out of the Schwanz corner, and Max Wimmer found his way through. He managed a beautiful exit there, and he's now up into third. And we are now climbing up back uphill here towards the start and finish straight. We are closing in to the halfway mark of the race. Martin Zellhofer now down to fourth, so Max Wimmer entered the podium awarding positions. Behind Martin Zellhofer, it is the pole sitter Daniel Lemmerhofer, followed by Christoph Zellhofer. And this is going to be pretty interesting now for the race lead. Gábor Tim already attacking Fabian Orfandl into the first corner, and he was aggressive enough, and now the first corner is long enough for him to stay ahead using the inside line of the track. So it is the swap of positions in P1 and P2, and it is now Gábor Tim leading the race from Fabian Orfandl. Beautiful attack, that was textbook stuff from Gábor Tim, and he's immediately trying to pull a bit of a gap there. As already mentioned, the racing style that he's adopted for today's race seems to be the way to go in those cold and mixed dry wet conditions. Visibly he's drifting so much more than the rest of the pack, and that seems to be helping him keep much more heat in his tires, and that in turn should help him enjoy much better grip than the rest of the drivers, and it seems to be exactly like that. And Gábor Tim, having overtaken Fabian Orfandl into the first corner, does now pull a bit of a gap there, and he's trying to disappear from the rest of the pack. These are the following drivers. Car number 117, that's Daniel Lemmerhofer, already down into P7, so not really a great race from his side. He enjoyed starting from pole position thanks to his 8th place from race number 1 yesterday, but he simply seems not to have the pace today to fight with his opponents on the track here in Brno, and he's dropping down the order like a stone into a pond. Gábor Tim, it seems to me like the last sector of this track was not exactly into his favor. That's much more about the top end speed up the hill and good exits, and it seems that the drifting style he's adopted is not exactly good for that. So the last sector not exactly in his favor, but the sectors 1 and 2, they seem to be much more to his liking. Gábor Tim trying to run away with it, but currently not being very successful. These are the older Swifts. You can definitely spot the difference between the two generations. They are also much slower. Just to give you a bit of perspective, Gábor Tim, who's currently leading the race and also leading the better performing newer 1.4 litre turbo class, his last lap, well, let's say his best lap and also the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 30.8, whereas the fastest of the Swift 16 category with naturally aspirated 1600cc engines, currently Alex Sovka, he's only managed to 37.449, so he is some, let's say, 6.5 seconds slower per lap than the best of the stronger category. So that's your difference. This is the car number 555, driven by Gábor Al-Abshi. Among the 16 Swifts, it is Alex Sovka leading the race from Attila Bucci and Gergő Ratz. That's the podium finishing positions currently, with some six laps completed. And this is Balázs Hartmann with his golden black liveried car number 505. And here we are back at the top of the race. And more drifting from Gábor Tim. He's re-entering the start and finish straight now. Still in the lead, but he's not really pulling ahead. He was trying to do so, but it seems to me now that Fabian Orfandl is now reeling him back in. And Max Wimmerer having got himself into third. He's also trying to follow and pursue the other drivers, and he's trying to stay in touch with them so that he still keeps his chances to win the race number 2 here. Yesterday's winner, Dominik Haselsteiner, currently in P8. 1 place up on today's pole sitter, Daniel Lemmerhofer. So the drivers that were successful yesterday are not really enjoying today's race just as much. It is in turn Gábor. He was second yesterday, and he's leading the race on Sunday morning from Fabian Orfandl and Max Wimmerer. Alex Sovka still leading the Swift 16 class from Attila Bucci and Gergő Ratz. We've got the information that the stewards have taken some interest in the car number 555 of Gábor Alapsi from the lower Swift 16 category, probably for reaching the track limits, which is something that he was already disqualified for yesterday. Gábor managing to get a bit of a gap there from his direct competitors. Because the fight for P2 is now fully on, and Fabian Orfandl has got to watch his rearview mirrors very closely, because they are full of the sight of that orange and white Swift driven by Max Wimmerer. Fabian Orfandl cannot really now focus fully on pursuing leading Gábor. And this is the fight for the victory, or actually for the last podium place in the Swift 16 class. The orange and grey car, number 533, that is Attila Bucci, and he's now lost his second place there. Gergő Ratz has now managed to overtake him, and Attila Bucci falling also down to 4th. He's just been overtaken by that troubled car number 555 driven by Gábor Alapsi. But as we've already said, he might actually be under investigation if the information is correct about the stewards taking interest in his actions on track. So Gábor Alapsi, currently P3 in his class, and trying to come up with something to overtake Gergő Ratz and get himself into second. And as you can see, Alex Sovka has been exploiting the battle for second place. Ooh, that's a big mistake from Gábor Alapsi. He was too late under braking, and he very nearly made contact with Gergő Ratz. He had to go a little bit more straight ahead rather than turn into that stadium section, which then made him miss the apex completely, and that opened the door for Attila Bucci, and Attila Bucci definitely did not need second invitation, and he's now inviting himself to get back into P2 again, and he's trying to overtake Gergő Ratz for second in that Swift 16 category. And there's also lots of stuff going on in the battle for the lead in the Swift 14 class, and it looks like Fabian Orfandl should be back in the lead, while Attila Bucci is now trying again to overtake Gergőrác for the second place in Swift 16 class. He's now very wide at the exit, and now it is Gábor Al-Abshi trying to get himself back ahead of Gergőrác. Both of them side by side, making little contacts with each other. This is the second to last corner, and Gergőrác staying third at least, but Attila Bucci back into second. But we should have Fabian Orfandl at least very close to Gábor Tim, or maybe ahead of him, but we are now still following the Swift 16 category. Attila Bucci fighting for second place with Gergőrác. Beautiful scrap there for P2 there, and it's really very interesting now indeed. However, Max Wimmerer, who should be still third overall in this race, has been handed a drive-through penalty, presumably for exceeding track limits. Battle for second still going on in the Swift 16 class. And Gábor Al-Abshi getting himself back into the game. Ooh, that's a bit of a contact there, and Gergőrác being pushed wide, and he's now fallen down to P4 in his class. He was very close to leaving the track into the gravel trap. Luckily for him, that did not really happen, and he's at least managed to stay in touch with his opponent. For some reason the live timing keeps showing us Fabio Becvar in first, but that's not the case, definitely. Let's just try and refresh the live timing screen and bring it back to life. It should be still Gábor Tim leading the race from Fabian Orfandl and Max Wimmerer, but as already mentioned, Max Wimmerer should dive into the pits and serve his penalty. This race should be listed for 30 minutes plus 1 lap. The lower Swift 14 category is still being dominated by the Polish driver Alex Sofka, car number 586. And look at this, some of the drivers already trying to find the wet spots on the start and finish straight, probably to cool down their tyres. If they overheat them, then they wear out quicker than usual, and they also offer less grip. So that's, in the mixed wet and dry conditions, that's a good way to cool down your tyres, to simply weave away from the racing line and drive through those wet patches there. Gábor Tim still leading from Fabian Orfandl, so there has not been any change of positions between P1 and P2. That was just a slight glitch of the live timing screen. But Max Wimmerer still remaining third behind these two, but he is going to have to serve his drive-through penalty. Gábor Tim, he's got Fabian Orfandl very close behind himself, and we are now entering the start and finish straight. It also looks like that hairy drive style full of drifting now means that Gábor does not really have his tires in the best condition, but he's still keeping his first position. And the fight for P1 raging on, and it seems to me, and I guess to everybody, that the fight for the race victory is going to go down to the wire, to the last meters, and hopefully we will be able to see something as dramatic as yesterday in both races of Renault Twingo Cup, which both ended up with a very, very close photo finish. And now Max Wimmer has surprised Fabian Orfandl. Fabian Orfandl has been pushing Gábor, but he's been relegated down to third. So this is the penultimate lap of the race, because the time is going to be up when we reach back the finish line. But this race is listed for 30 minutes plus 1 lap. The Suzuki Swift Cup running under slightly different regulations than the majority of the other races that we witness here in Brno. They do not exactly follow the same calendar like the SNV4 Cup. The Suzuki Swift has already raced at Salzburg Ring and Slovakia Ring. After this weekend in Brno, they are going to return back to Slovakia for round number 4, but then they will finish the season. If that happens, if that is not, let's say, changed in any way by the ongoing pandemic, then the season should enjoy its finale, just like the SNV4 Cup at the Hungaroring towards the end of October. And now Gábor entering the last lap of the race. Gábor on the last lap, leading from Max Wimmer and Fabian Orfandl, but as already mentioned, Fabian Orfandl is going to move back up into second because Max Wimmer has got to serve his penalty. He's got to serve it within 3 laps of being shown, and it looks like he might simply go all the way to the end and then receive a time penalty instead. And if I'm not mistaken, then drive-through penalty should be replaced by 25 seconds added to your time. If you do not serve the penalty, look at Gábor. That was a massive mistake from him on the last lap of the race. Absolutely amazing. And Gábor, he's been perfect all the way through the race, but he has now thrown away his chances by getting way too sideways there. He's been drifting all through the race and showing us that that's probably the way to go. That was faster pretty much all the way through the race, but it seems to me like he destroyed his tires just a tad little too soon, and he's got nothing left for the last lap of the race, and that means that he made a massive mistake in turn number 3 on the last final lap of the race, and he got way too sideways there. He even entered the grass there and lost 2 places. He's got to win. He's going to go. He's going to go to win 1 place back by the virtue of the penalty for Max Wimmer, but he's just now thrown away his chances to win this race because he's been overtaken also by Fabian Orfandl, and the gap, the crucial gap between Fabian Orfandl and Gábor is now a little bit too big for Gábor to get himself back into the lead. Max Wimmer now leading the race on the track, but he's going to be demoted. So these are the last corners. It seems to me that either Fabian Orfandl doesn't know that Max Wimmer is going to be penalized, or Fabian Orfandl just wants to enjoy his race victory on the track, not, as they say, from the green table. Max Wimmer exiting the last corner, and he is going to drive under the checkered flag as the race winner but he did not serve his penalty and he is going to be demoted. So it should be Fabian Orfandl victorious in race number 2 here in Brno. Gábor team finishing 3rd on the road from Christoph Zellhofer, Dominik Haselsteiner, Martin Zellhofer, Kamil Serafin, and the pole sitter Daniel Lemmerhofer. And this is the leading car of the slower Swift 16 class, driven by Alex Sofka. He's been absolutely dominant all the way through this race and he did not let anybody into any chance. Alex Sofka enjoying a 5-second lead over the rest of the pack, so he's going to reach the start and finish line as first. Only there are the other drivers, and we were watching the scrap for P2. It was very entertaining, and it's still going on there. And now it is still Attila Bucci in second from Gábor Al-Abshi and Gergőrác. Alex Sofka making his way around the final corner of the Automotodrom Brno, and he is victorious in the Swift 16 class. Alex Sofka wins the race in Brno from Attila Bucci. Sadly, we did not remain in the view. So Attila Bucci, Gábor Al-Abshi in 3rd in the end, and Gergőrác just under the podium in this race. So Max Wimmerer victorious on the road, but according to all the information we have, he should be demoted and deprived of this victory by the virtue of his penalty, which he very probably has not noticed, and is going to be penalized for it, which should mean that Fabian Orfandl is going to be the race winner here in Brno from Gábor team and Christoph Zellhofer. So that was the first Sunday's race here in Brno. Wonderful stuff at this half dry, half wet track, or let's say half moist track. And it was beautiful, beautiful action. And I believe we're gonna enjoy the rest of the Sunday's program at least just as much as we did enjoy this Suzuki Swift Europe Challenge race. So that's it from Brno for the moment, but do not run away too far, because more action is going to follow very closely, and it will resume in just a couple of minutes. We are going to watch the Formula Racing Division 2 in just a couple of moments, then the faster single-seaters, i.e. the big open single-seaters, i.e. the Boss GP later on. Directly after that, the GT race number 2, and then directly after that, the TCR Eastern Europe race number 2 for this event number 3 out of 4 in 2020's Asset V4 Cup. So right now it is a goodbye from Pavel Fabry, and we'll see each